Hi guys, it's Kritika and welcome back to my YouTube channel.
Don't put this in. That's so weird.
It was just, oh my god, that's so cool. Wow. Just, wow.
Ooh, I want to read this.
As you can see, we've unlocked a new location. I am back home for the summer since the semester is finally over, and I'm super happy about this because that means I finally have time to read again. The end of the semester was genuinely so busy for me with finals and everything else, and I'm so glad that that's all over now. And I just feel like there's been so many good releases that came out these past couple months, which sucked because I didn't have any time to read back then. But now I do. So I thought I'd make a little reading vlog of me reading a few new releases and hopefully we can find some new favorite books. Alright, so the first new release I'm going to be reading is probably my most anticipated read of the year, and it is none other than Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. If you know me, you know that I absolutely love Emily Henry's books. I literally have like all of them right on my shelf right here. I've read all her romances. Funny Story and Beach Read are my absolute faves. Those are like 5-star books for me, so there is a good chance that this book could be 5 stars as well. And I've been waiting to read this since it came out 2 weeks ago, but like I said, I had no time with finals, so I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into Great Big Beautiful Life. So it's a few hours later and I am now 20% through, so I thought I'd just catch you guys up with what's been going on. And don't mind the list, I have my retainers in. Alright, so basically the book is about these two writers who are both competing to write the biography of this famous celebrity who's like disappeared from the public eye and left all these questions. So whoever gets to write this biography, like, it would completely change their career. So they both obviously really want it, but only one of them can get it. So there's tension because of that. So it's a rivals to lovers trope, which is always really fun. Also, I'm really enjoying the whole interview style of it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Born for This by Caitlin Devlin, which I talked about in my last video, with the whole interview style of like a famous person. So I really enjoyed both of those books and I'm enjoying that trope in this book as well. But yeah, like I said, I'm only 20% in, so not a whole lot has happened yet. We're just really meeting all the characters and I'm really enjoying it so far. Like, I have nothing bad to say yet. And yeah, I'm gonna keep reading tonight and then I'll see you guys in the morning. Alright guys, so it's the next day and I'm now 40% through the book and I really like how things are going. The romance is definitely picking up and there's like a lot of tension and we're getting a lot more into the mystery of Margaret and her life through the interviews that are being conducted. And I saw a lot of people online saying that they found those parts of the book really boring, like the interview sections, but I'm actually really invested in that part. This is definitely though the least romance heavy of all of Emily Henry's romance books because there are like 2 main plots going on. There's the romance happening, but then there's also the interviews and figuring out Margaret's like backstory of her life and everything. But I'm honestly enjoying both subplots equally. I think they're both super interesting, but you do have to go into this book, I feel like, knowing that there is less romance. So like I said, I'm at 40% now, so I'm just gonna keep reading today and see how much more I can get done. Alright, so I'm taking a walk now while listening to the audiobook of Great Big Beautiful Life, and I think I'm about 65% through now. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep listening and I'll update you guys soon. There's this huge bird. I've never seen one in this area. What the heck? I don't know if you can see it, but it's like on the other side of that little pond. I'm gonna try to get closer. That's so cool. When I tell you, I've literally lived here for my entire life and I've never seen a bird like that here. Oh my god. Alright guys, so I am now at the 70% mark and I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of getting a little bored, which is surprising to me because like I was saying, like for the entire first half of the book, like I was really invested and I was like, wait, this is really good. But I don't know, I'm kind of getting a little bored, and I think I've pinpointed the reason. I remember seeing like reviews and stuff before I started reading about people saying like, oh, the parts of the book that were about Margaret were like so boring, like her narration and stuff. I was skimming through those and just getting to the romance parts. But I'm actually having the opposite problem. I'm enjoying Margaret's narrative subplot way more than the romance subplot, which is kind of surprising because that's kind of the opposite of what everyone else is saying. But I think the reason is because the romance just feels way too insta-lovey to me. Like, you guys saw me earlier, like, saying, like, oh my god, they already kissed and it's only 25% into the book. And I get that, like, that was just, like, one kiss and, like, there was, like, more miscommunication that happened because of that and, like, more tension created. But, like, still, the characters admitted that they liked each other way too early. For me, I like a good build-up to romances. Like, I feel like in romance books, the build-up is almost always better than the characters actually being together. I don't know, I just, like, I feel like it happened way too quickly. There wasn't enough of a build-up or tension or yearning, and, like, that is what makes, like, romance good for me. So I feel like I'm not really invested into the romance subplot at all. I'm way more interested in the parts that are about Margaret and figuring out, like, her, like, life and stuff, because it is, like, pretty mysterious, and, like, the way it's being set up is that there is supposed to be, like, some, like, big reveal at the end, because Hayden and Alice have both said that it seems like Margaret's lying about something. You don't know why she's lying. So obviously there's going to be a reveal about that, and that's kind of the only thing that's, like, keeping me interested in still reading. I hate to say it, but I'm, like, kind of feeling underwhelmed. I am at the 70% mark, and I kind of just want to be over with the book, so I'm just gonna keep reading. But I don't know, I'm a little disappointed. Alright, so I just finished reading Great Big Beautiful Life, and I have some thoughts. So like I was saying, the first half of the book I was really enjoying. I thought the premise was really interesting, and I liked the characters, and I liked how the plot was moving. But halfway through I definitely started to get bored, and I wasn't really feeling invested in the romance anymore. It just felt a little rushed to me because there wasn't enough time spent developing the romance. And I understand why, because there's like two main plots going on in the book. So because only half of the plot is spent towards developing the romance, it just felt like it wasn't developed enough. But as for the subplot about Margaret's life, I thought that was really interesting. In the second half, that was really the only thing that kept me still interested in reading the book. And I'd predicted before that there was going to be like some like big plot twist, because it seemed like throughout the book Margaret was kind of being shady about some stuff and potentially lying, and I was right, there did end up being a big reveal at the end, so that was interesting. But I don't think that was like interesting enough to totally redeem the whole book. So I think I'm gonna give this 4 stars, which kind of sucks because I did expect this to be higher. And even though it didn't end up becoming one of my favorites, I would still recommend this because I think the writing is really good and like the premise of the book is really good too. And for people who prefer more of like a literary fiction, like historical kind of thing, this could be more your vibe. But for me, I wanted to be invested in the romance more, and that just didn't happen. But again, Emily Henry has written like 2 of my favorite romance books ever, like Beach Read and Funny Story, so we'll definitely still be reading everything this woman writes, but I just don't think this one was for me, so that's why I'm giving it 4 stars. Alright, so the next new release that I'm going to be reading is Silver Elite by Danny Francis. So this book I've literally seen being promoted like everywhere, and everyone's calling this the next big dystopian novel. Like, it's being compared to like Divergent and Hunger Games and all those like classic dystopian books. So those are some pretty big shoes to fill. I think it literally came out only last week, so very new, and I don't really know much about the plot other than it is like dystopian and it's a girl trying to overthrow a corrupt government, you know, classic. But yeah, it's pretty thick, and the edition of this that I pre-ordered actually came with like metallic like silver sprayed edges, which is pretty cool. So like I said, I don't really know much about this book going into it, but I feel like sometimes that's better because then I don't have like super high expectations. But yeah, I'm gonna start this and I'll let you guys know how it is. Guys, so it is the next morning. Ignore how I look right now. I literally just woke up like 20 minutes ago, but the first thing I wanted to do was keep reading Silver Elite because it is so good so far. I got to about 40 pages last night, and basically the general plot is that there are two types of people in this world. There's the primes, which are just like normal humans, and then the modified people that have like special like psychic abilities. And so in this world, the primes are hunting all the modified people because they think that their power is like unnatural and it's dangerous. So the mods are hunted. And so our main character, Ren, she is a mod, and she lives with her uncle, who's also a mod. And her uncle actually used to work for the Uprising, which is this rebellion group that the mods have. And they haven't like done any like drastic rebellions, but they're like slowly infiltrating the government. And so her uncle used to work for them, but now they're like just both in hiding, but they still have like contact with the Uprising, but for the most part they're just like trying to stay low and like stay hidden so that they don't get caught. But our main character, she makes a little mistake in like the first chapter, which leads to a lot of attention, and it ends up getting her uncle caught. So he is taken by the primes and is set to be executed. So Ren obviously wants to go save her uncle. So that's the part of the book I'm at right now. She like sets off to go try to rescue him. And yeah, it's really good, and I'm really liking the writing style too. I'm pretty sure this is also the author's debut novel, which is really impressive. And yeah, I literally woke up and I was like, I want to keep reading. So that's what I'm gonna do. Guys, so I've officially hit the 200 page mark, so I thought I'd come on here and give you guys an update. So I basically got into the main plot of the book now, which is Ren is forced to join a training program for a silver block, which is like this special section of the military. And basically the reason is after her uncle is caught, the government suspects that Ren also might be a traitor because she was like living with her uncle. And so they force her to join this training program basically to like prove her loyalty to the government. And so she is in this program, but the entire time she obviously has to be careful and still keep her identity hidden because she is modified and no one else can know that. So that's been really interesting. The romance side of it, however, I haven't been enjoying as much. I feel like up until this point, the romance has entirely just been like lust. Like the main characters obviously like find each other attractive, and that's like been the entire guiding force behind the romance. Like there's been nothing other than that. So I'm hoping that soon there's like more of like an emotional connection that happens, but up until this point, like it's literally just been like, oh, he's so attractive, like he's so fine, like, you know. And I'm like, okay, but like let's like, you know, but plot wise it's really great, and I'm low-key flying through this. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep reading because I'm really enjoying it. Okay guys, it's a few days later and I finally finished reading Silver Elite. I was kind of in a slump for a little bit around the 60% point, and I didn't read for like maybe 4 days or something, but I finally finished it last night. And I have a few thoughts. So overall, it was definitely a good book and I would really recommend, but my biggest issue with the book was the romance subplot, because this is supposed to be like a romantic dystopian novel, but the romance was just really lacking for me. Like it was not giving what it could have. And it sucks because the whole trope, the whole like forbidden romance trope, like normally I eat that shit up. In this one, it just wasn't giving. And I think the reason for that is just because I said this before, but the romance is primarily just based on physical attraction for like most of the book. It isn't until the last 20% that you see like any sort of emotional connection forming between the two main characters. But since the majority of the book was genuinely just them like lusting over each other and like sleeping together every night, it just got so repetitive and like boring, because it would literally just be like they'd go through their day-to-day tasks and then have sex at the end of the day and then repeat the next day and then have sex, and then, you know, it was just like so repetitive that it was just like not even fun to read about anymore. I also felt like for the majority of the book, the male main character had like no personality, because the only dialogue you ever see him say is either him bossing people around because he's like the captain of the section of the army they're in, or it's dirty talk. It's literally just bossing people around or dirty talk. It isn't until like the end of the book that you get to start to see his personality. So I don't know, that was my biggest issue, was just that there was like barely any emotional connection with the romance. But like I said, I did like the way that the book ended. Like there was like a good plot twist that's gonna like set up the rest of the series. So I definitely will be reading the second book when it comes out, and I can imagine that the romance will be a lot better in the second book because it's already established. And I don't know, it had all the right ingredients for it to be so good, which is why I think it's so disappointing, because it could have been so good. But I don't know, it just wasn't giving. But plot-wise though, really enjoyed. Like the plot of this was so good. So for that reason, I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so for the next new release I'm going to be reading, I actually have like zero clue what I want to read. So I have my sister in the car with me here, and I'm gonna have her pick out my next read. So I'm just gonna like go through Goodreads and like look at some new releases, and then we'll have my sister pick, because I honestly don't know what I'm in the mood for, because I read a romance and then I read a dystopian romance. So I'm like, do I want to do like fantasy or go back to like classic? I honestly don't know. Like I could read anything at this point, so I'm just gonna have my sister pick. Okay, you can relax a bit. This part will be cut out. I can breathe.
Whoa.
Why were you holding your
Good.
breath?
I wasn't holding my breath. You should put that in. Don't put that in.
Ooh, I want to read this.
The Love Haters. Are you a love hater?
No, it's by Catherine Center.
I feel like I recognize the art on the front, like the style of art.
Okay, so actually never mind, because I was just going through Goodreads and I saw that The Love Haters by Catherine Center is out. If you watched my like ranking 5-star reads book, you know that The Bodyguard by Catherine Center is like one of my 5-star reads. And so I had put this on my want to read list on Goodreads like a while ago, but it wasn't out yet. It literally just came out 2 days ago. So it's a very current new release, so we're scrapping that.
Okay.
And I'm just going to be reading The Love Haters by Catherine.
No, you know what you should have done? You should have just given me that as an option and then a few other things, and then I should have just picked that.
I'm real, guys. I keep it real.
Don't put this in. That's so weird.
Alright guys, so it is the next morning and I was up pretty late last night reading The Love Haters. And I got to like 85 pages, which I think is about like 20-ish% through the book, and it's pretty good so far. The general plot basically follows Katie, who's the main character. So she works for this like video making company. Basically, like you can just hire the company to like make a video for you. They typically do like short documentaries, like promotional videos, like kind of like corporate videos sort of. And so her company gets hired to film a recruitment video for the Coast Guard. So Katie gets the opportunity to work on this project, and she really wants to take it because the company's gonna like lay off a bunch of people. So she thinks if she like does a good job on this project, like it'll like save her from being laid off. So it's like really important that she like gets a project. But the only thing is, a requirement of this project is that you need to be able to swim. So I actually didn't know anything about the Coast Guard before reading this, but like the Coast Guard, like they like fly in helicopters over the ocean, and then they like jump out of the helicopters to like rescue people. So like part of the requirement to like be allowed on the helicopters, you know how to swim in case the helicopter does crash while it's like over the water or something. But the thing is, Katie doesn't know how to swim, but she decides to keep that to herself because she thinks she'll just like learn, like take swimming lessons and learn how to swim before like the assessment comes that she needs to pass in order to be let onto the helicopter. So she just like doesn't tell her boss and just accepts the position anyways. So like I said, she is filming a promotional video for the Coast Guard, and the main subject that like the Coast Guard wants to feature in the video is this guy named Hutch, who kind of like blew up online because a video of him like rescuing this dog off a cliff went viral or something. So basically like he's the main subject of the video, and he's also the love interest, obviously. So the whole premise of the book like seemed very interesting to me, but what I didn't realize before I started reading was that another major theme in this book is like body image insecurities, because the main character, she struggled with an eating disorder in the past. So another big like challenge she has to overcome in this book, apart from learning how to swim, is being comfortable like wearing a bathing suit. So there's a lot of discussion in this book about like struggling with body image and like being comfortable in your own skin, and I did not know that that was a part of this book going into it. So I think that's definitely important to know before you read it, because there are certain scenes that like can kind of be troubling, especially like when she's talking about her eating disorder. So I would keep that in mind going into it, but the way the author is writing about it is really great. There's like a lot of quotes in here that I was like highlighting as I was reading it, because I was like, wow, that's like so well written. So yeah, I'm liking it so far. I just got to the part in the book like where the love interest like meet for the first time. Not much has happened yet on like the romance aspect, but I've read 2 of Catherine Center's books before, The Bodyguard and Hello Stranger, which Bodyguard I gave 5 stars and Hello Stranger was like a 4.75, like super duper close. And I really liked the romance in both of those. So I'm like very confident that this will also be good. And I'm just gonna keep reading and I'll see you guys later. I am now 40% through the book and I just finished reading the scene where the love interest and the main character have their first like swim lesson. And I guess I just didn't realize this before, or like maybe it was mentioned, it just like went over my head. But I didn't realize like what the swim test actually entailed, because I thought the swimming test that she had to pass was just like a standard swim test, like can you swim or can you not. So the actual test she has to do, which is like standard for like rescue swimmers, I think, you're inside this like fake helicopter and you're like seat buckled to a seat and you're flipped upside down underwater, and then you have to get out of your seat and then like swim back up to the surface, which is so much more intensive than I was thinking in my head. And I feel like that's so hard, like even if you do know how to swim, like that just seems like a lot. But then again, I don't know how to swim, so maybe that could just be me. I feel like every time I tell someone I don't know how to swim, like I get a lot of judgment, which is fair because like I'm literally 20 years old and I don't know how to swim. But like there is a story behind it. So basically, I was in swim lessons when I was younger. Granted, I was that kid who would like stand at the edge of the pool and then be like, I don't want to go in, I don't want to go in, and like make a big fuss. But about like 2 or 3 months into my lessons, I got into this accident and my tooth broke, and it was like this whole like tooth injury thing. And that was like why I couldn't continue lessons. I mean, technically I still could have swam, but like the pain from like my tooth injury and stuff was like the excuse I used with my parents to convince them to like stop sending me to swim lessons. So I stopped going to lessons, and then I just never ended up continuing them. And I'd always been meaning to eventually, because like obviously like I feel like you should know how to swim, like that's a pretty important like life skill, but I just never ended up going back. So now I'm like 20 years old and can't swim, which I know it's embarrassing. But yeah, that's made this book very relatable to me. Like I said, I just finished reading the scene where the love interest is giving the main character her first swim lesson, and they're covering like how to blow bubbles and how to float, and I'm like, I need this, like low-key, I need this. So I don't know, maybe this book will inspire me to go actually learn how to swim this summer, but I don't know. But yeah, that's been enjoyable reading about because it is very relatable for me. The romance is very slowly but surely developing, which I really like because like I've talked about, I really like the build up to romance. So that's been really good. And yeah, I'm having a good time and I'm gonna keep reading. Okay, ignore how I look. It is literally 1 a.m., but I was up this entire time reading The Love Haters, and I just finished. Like I could not stop reading. I was like binge reading this. Wow. Just wow, this was such a good book. I can't even properly articulate my feelings right now, but like this was just such a good story. Like, okay, starting off with the romance, although this is like a romance book, Catherine Center I feel like always does a really good job of balancing romance with like something more. Like I remember in her book Hello Stranger specifically, like the like journey that the main character goes on in that book was also like so important to the plot, and this book was so much more than just a romance. But that being said, the romance plot in it was good. Like there was a part of the book where the love interest like confesses that he has feelings, and I'm reading it and literally squealing out loud because it's like so freaking cute. And then there's a scene at the end of the book too, which I'm not gonna say too much about because like I don't want there to be any spoilers, but just think of Anyone But You, like the helicopter scene in Anyone But You, and that's like all I can say. But that, it was just, oh my god. As for the actual plot, I'd mentioned before that like a major theme in the book was the main character's like struggles with like her body image and how she like viewed herself, and I just think the way it was written about was just so beautiful. Like, this was just such a beautiful story about like a journey of self-love with like an added bonus of like a really good romance on top of it. I'm not normally a big like annotator when I read books. Like, I like never really annotate physical books, and even when I read on my Kindle, it's like you just like press down and like highlight. But like even then I don't really annotate on my Kindle. But this book, I probably made so many highlights because I was just like, wow, that is the most like beautiful quote. There were parts of this book that like had me in tears. The last 20% of the book is very like plot heavy, and I can't really say much without spoiling it, but I could not put the book down and go to bed. Like, I just like, it was like such a page turner at the end. The only complaint I have about the book is about 60% in, there's like this like big miscommunication that happens between the like main characters, and I don't hate the miscommunication trope. Like, I know some people hate that. I don't actually always hate it, but with this one, it was just such a major miscommunication, and it felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. So when that was introduced and that plot like took up like the next couple of however many chapters, I was like, why are we doing this? Like, it was so good, and then like, why did this big miscommunication thing need to happen? I was kind of annoyed by that, but it all got resolved. And in the grand scheme of like how good this book was, like, that is something I'm willing to overlook. So yeah, for all those reasons, I am giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. The first one of this video. So this is now the second Catherine Center book I've given 5 stars, and now I will definitely be adding more of her books to my TBR because I had such a good positive reading experience. And that wraps up this reading vlog. This was my first time actually making a reading vlog. Before this, I'd only done like sit down book recommendation videos on this channel, and those will definitely still be continuing, but please let me know if you like this kind of video format. It's my first time, and there's already things that I'm making note of on what I want to do differently for the next one. But yeah, please let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far in the video. It genuinely means so much to me, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!